If I said, you are unworthy right now, you are way below what I would have expected from someone like you are behind, you are insecure, and you really need to work on yourself. You would do one of two things. One, you would slap me in the face, or two, you would agree with me and then nod in silence. If you are the type of person that would nod and agree with me saying those statements, stay with me. Let's talk about the dark side of the self-improvement industry and how it can actually spur on depression and a lack of achievement. I'm Danny DeSilves, your go-to for learning how to stand up for yourself, to start healing, and to set boundaries so that toxic people don't bother you anymore. Let's go. Right, when we think about the self-improvement industry, it seems to have all the answers guaranteed, right? We see a pretty book and we're like, okay, I'm going to read this book. I'm going to get on the straight and narrow. I want to be disciplined. Or this man in this YouTube video has this expensive suit, he's driving a fancy car, he's got neon lights in the background, millions of subscribers. He must know his stuff. Because naturally, if we think about this social hierarchy, we perceive people to be a lot, not better, but I'm going to say better, just for ease, a lot better than what they actually are. And that's if we see someone's making money, if someone is attractive, if someone has a really good relationship with their spouse, we automatically perceive these people to have all the answers. So when someone has 1 million subscribers, we will take their content as gospel and we don't think for a second they might be lying. We don't think that. Or we see someone's produced a book and it's actually printed in the library. We perceive that person to be knowledgeable. And let me tell you, in this day and age, everyone has a podcast. Everyone has a YouTube channel. Everyone can easily print a book and get it printed and then go put it in their local Waterstones. Just because we can do these things, it basically means that credibility has completely gone out of the window, okay? Now, let me be honest. I have been a former self-help addict probably for 8 years of my entire life. I've read books, I've got courses, I've spent tons of money, I've watched all the webinars, and I've come across a couple of things. Number one, someone always gains from your insecurities, right? So let's be really honest. A plastic surgeon or someone that helps you improve your looks in the state of aesthetics, Botox, fillers, all that jazz, they are making a profit from your insecurity. And if you've not worked on that insecurity, if you go towards a plastic surgeon, a good plastic surgeon might say, no, I'm not gonna touch your face. But someone might say, oh yeah, you have got a crooked nose, haven't you? Look at that on your face. Oh my gosh, let's get rid of that. Let's fix it. Let me put some fillers into your face. Let me freeze your face so that you can't make any emotion. Now, very similar. The self-development industry preys on our insecurities. It's going to promise us these quick fixes and easy hacks. Why? Because that sounds better to sell a book, right? Now, of course, I'm not denying it. There's tons of credible people out there and they are genuine and they do want to help you on your journey to improving the self, but they can be disguised as gurus. And sometimes these really amazing people that are credible and are giving out tons of value, they are not focused on making money. So they don't have this marketing competitive edge. So they don't have the buzzwords. They don't know how to write clickbait titles on YouTube. They don't know how to make their videos on YouTube look popular. They don't know how to create these thumbnails and stuff that makes us want to click on it, right? So what happens? Well, their content gets watered down by everyone else that's producing clickbait content. Now, I've been a video presenter for the past 5 years. So my day job was to create content for lots of other people, YouTube channels, Facebook ads, TikTok ads, UGC content, where I'm basically unboxing a product. And I've kind of noticed a lot of the people that I have worked with, they are not credible, but because they have tons of sales and tons of reviews and tons of subscribers, people will naturally resonate with the content and perceive that to be good. And that's the danger of modern society. Everyone, like Andy Warhol said, has their 10 minutes of fame, right? So now everyone's been a little bit famous. Everyone's got something to say, but doesn't mean that they should be saying it. Sometimes it's just better to just keep your opinions as a voice note in your friend group, not put it on a YouTube channel. But there we go. That's the danger. So we are being sold a dream almost overnight to change our lives, right? And like I said, we're being anchored in with those marketing words. For example, are you struggling to speak up in public? Do you hate being rejected? Are you fed up of feeling stuck? We see these words or we hear these words and we're like, yep, that's me. Sign me up, baby. Here's my money. Now, when someone points out that we don't have things which make us happy and we're not successful, for example, some guy might be like, you suck with women, don't you? And you're like, yeah, I'm chronically lonely. Well, then what happens? When we agree with what people say, we believe that there is something genuinely wrong with us, which keeps us running towards an external carrot of, I'm not good enough, I want to be different, and I hate my current self. And then when we have that mindset, we have to prove to ourselves that in order to master this topic of what we're not good at, let's say public speaking, confidence, leadership, whatever, to be successful, that we end up running out of time, we end up just overwhelming ourselves with improvement. Now, when in actual fact, right, there's nothing wrong with us. If we haven't achieved a goal, it just simply means we need to try something different, another strategy, get another perspective, get some fresh eyes on what we're doing, gain some more wisdom. That doesn't mean that we are majorly flawed to begin with or that we're missing out on something. And of course, we don't need to achieve a goal of 1 million followers or own 3 Lamborghinis or date multiple people at once, whatever. It's ridiculous. And all this means absolutely nothing. We know that deep down. When we think about it, we know materialistic stuff, and just because someone's got whatever thousands of followers on Instagram, we know that it doesn't mean anything, but we override that because marketing and society are really good at bombarding us with the wrong type of content. Blame the algorithms, guys. Now, I want to talk about the lack, right? When we believe we are lacking in something, we feel that we are flawed, we are broken, we're not good enough, and something is severely wrong with us. What happens when we believe we're lacking on something and we're trying to figure out what that lack is, and we've not really done enough self-help work? What we end up doing is we engorge on endless content. We will download the courses, pay for the courses, get the books, get the podcasts, get the videos, get the meetings, get the events, get the seminars, yada, yada, one-on-one coaching, whatever. Because in our head, we are so uncomfortable. We have this feeling of this is perfection and I will not settle until I have achieved this feeling that seems to only come from goal succession, not from our growth. And it's very easy. Us human beings, we achieve something and then we move on to the next thing. For example, someone can make 5 million subscribers on YouTube and they're like, right, okay, let's go for 10. But they don't stop back to have that humble takedown of, how have I improved over these 5 years? Like, damn, I've improved a lot. So we forget the growth that we've done, and that almost makes us become very robotic in succeeding in our goals. Because if you stop and you just take note of how much you have grown in the past 3 years, you'll be like, wow, like I've done tremendous growth. I'm so happy. And that should inspire you to carry on growing as opposed to just achieving goals. So it becomes a fantasy of utopia exploration. It becomes an obsession. And if you attempt to grow in that mindset of obsession, right, you reach those boundaries of being a perfectionist. And even if you do get that thing that you thought you wanted, you don't end up appreciating it anyway because it's just a goal. It doesn't have that emotional value anymore because you're just set on achieving as opposed to growing. And therefore, nothing feels great when you get it. You know, you can't handle the down days that come with success for that thing that you wanted. For example, right, you could buy a relationship course online because some guy said to you, look, you're lonely, you suck with women, obviously, let me give you some advice. And you're like, yeah, that's me. I'm terrible with women. I'm terrible, not because of, maybe I need to have a different trajectory of how I'm talking to women in terms of emotional intelligence, whatever. I just need to adopt these quick hacks, videos, or whatever you read and see online. So when you get married with this lady of your dreams or man of your dreams, you'll have an argument. And then you'll sit down and you're like, this is awful. This was supposed to be perfect. And now all of a sudden this person's come to me and said that we need to do a 50-50 split on chores. Compromise? What is that? I never learned about this. I want a refund on my relationship success course. And what we don't realise is feeling unfulfilled is okay. Society and social media and lots of other things online is basically saying you feel awful, you feel crappy, you need to get rid of that feeling as soon as possible. But sitting with that feeling of, I don't have what I want, I'm not where I want to be, that is very uncomfortable. It's shameful. It makes us feel, it's not great. It keeps us up at night, right? But we avoid feeling. And that sounds like really woo-woo, right? But we will go out of our way to not feel those icky feelings. What happens? Maybe we're in a shame cycle because we don't have the career we want, we don't have the relationships we want, or we've done something in a social situation and we're quite embarrassed by what we've done. Completely normal stuff, really normal. But instead of sitting with that momentarily feeling of being discomfort, instead we will mask it. So we might abuse drugs, we might go to a party with loud music, we might smoke, we might drink, we might have that dopamine binge and distract ourselves with games or watching TV. We would do anything to stop ourselves from feeling uncomfortable because it's not taught that that's okay sometimes. If uncomfortable feelings were not supposed to happen, we wouldn't have them, right? They're there for a reason. It's a little bit like depression. Depression is literally a deep rest. Your body is forcing you to slow down, just have that humble, brief moment of just thinking and sorting out your next steps. It's like the grief process when someone dies. We can't just go back to our everyday lives. We have to process that. And if we don't process it, it still bleeds out into everyday life and makes a mess everywhere. So if you've ever been to therapy, you know that exposure to those uncomfortable feelings is where tremendous growth happens. And of course, exposure therapy, it sucks. It can bring up the darkest night of the soul? It makes you feel so uncomfortable, right? But when you start exploring where these feelings come from, eventually you can see them as less aggressive. They don't bother you. You get over that hill of these uncomfortable feelings and eventually it subsides and that's when you think, right, okay, so maybe I did do something stupid. I regret what I did and I've really felt that feeling. Now I know what I shouldn't be doing for next time. Obviously, logically, we're all human beings, right? We are programmed to survive. We scan our environments for threats continuously. If we have grown up in very threatening situations, abusive parents, neglectful parents, we will have that hypervigilant to look out for threats. So technically, from a caveman perspective, right, we are supposed to be looking for the next best cave to live in, the next best waterhole to commute to, whatever. But we're not machines. We have emotions. And it doesn't matter how much hustle bro culture says that you're weak for having emotions. It's complete BS because they're there. We all have them regardless if you identify as male or female. We simply sometimes just have to compromise on the cards that we were dealt is all. And miracles, they're not real, okay? We know that, but instead of exploring those unfulfilled feelings that we have in life, we think that we are wrong to have those feelings and we strive for immediate action. So we become desperate that we think we need to take action right now to find a new job because I feel depressed in this job. When if you haven't sat with that uncomfortable feeling, you won't realize that maybe it's not that you want to find a new job. It's just having a job brings you down. You don't like working 30 to 40 hours a week. You don't like going to work in the dark, coming home in the dark, missing all those hours of sunlight, and only having 2 days a week for life admin and house maintenance. So if you don't sit with that uncomfortable feeling, you would never unlock the process of maybe I can go down the route of entrepreneurship, passive income, doing what I can to get my life back. You would never have reached that mindset if you hadn't let yourself feel those uncomfortable feelings. Now, in DBT therapy, we talk about this process called the wise mind. And it's basically, we all have the answers inside of us at any given time. If we just give ourselves that silence, an uncomfortable moment to sit down, the knowledge will come to us. So let's say, for example, you have the question, should I leave my job? Okay. You might be like, yeah, I need to Google this, ask a friend, but they won't know your situation. You are unique. So you sit down with that. You might feel really uncomfortable and really sad and regretful that you're not making as much money as you thought you would and your boss is toxic and awful. Just sit down for a moment. What do you want to do? And you will notice eventually when you focus on that, and it might not happen in the first time you do it, eventually it's a process that builds. You start to think, right, that answer was there all along. I've realized I do want a new job, but I want a new job where I'm respected. So that means a career change. So we always have the answers inside ourselves if we just listen. We always have inner guidance. So I encourage you to explore the self-help industry and take it with a grain of salt. And that's the best form of emotional intelligence, right? If a book or a video resonates to your unique situation, then explore it. Continue to absorb that information, but do it from a place of self-love, not that you are lacking. The perfect business model, and I've witnessed this in my many years of helping people with their content marketing online and presenting their content, is They want to sell a product or a service that keeps people coming back for more continuous income, right? For example, face cream. When it runs out, someone needs to buy another batch. The supplementary course that goes along with that previous course that they've bought. They want to have lifelong customers. And marketing in the self-help industry creates a burning desire to take action now, whether you are actually mentally prepared to take action, whether you've actually sat down and done the work. Because people will sell you the thought that something is wrong with you, you need to take action, you need to be liked, instead of saying, okay, so you want to do better. Why not consider this step-by-step guide to understand how you're feeling to make sure that this book is going to be good enough for you? Remember, is the book you're reading going to be good enough for you? Have that mindset. So the self-improvement industry has become an absolute monster, let's be honest. Now, without a doubt, we all have vulnerabilities. It could be our social skills aren't up to par. Maybe we can't control our emotions. We're easily triggered in our rage. Maybe we have told that we've got a personality disorder. And yeah, these are just vulnerabilities that can be worked through. Or it might be as simple as we don't have enough money to enjoy the life that we want. We are being told that we need to have a better life, better fashion sense, fancy cars, yada, yada, yada. And let me tell you, even the most loved, self-proclaimed self-improvement guru here on YouTube, here on Spotify, wherever you're listening to this, all have their flaws. They all have weaknesses. They all have vulnerabilities. But remember, you only choose to see you only see what they choose to show you. So when we think that someone else has mastered their own self-improvement, we see them as a godlike figure. We're like, this amazing human being is shining like a shiny angel, and they never do anything wrong. Now, this isn't to say that you should accept a life that you don't want and ignore the self-help industry. It's just a gentle invitation to be kind to yourself and accept it's totally okay to have what you perceive as flaws and moments when you're not your best self. You cannot improve until you make mistakes, and that is the biggest piece of advice I could give anyone. If you do things that maybe out of, say, you're triggered, you act out emotionally, and then you're like, oh, why did I do that? I feel so much shame. That's okay. You cannot learn, sadly, until you feel great discomfort, because you wouldn't learn the lesson any other way, right? So we almost have to be grateful for those moments, because that gives us that brief moment to actually learn something. And remember, you don't have to fix everything about yourself. Not everything is fixable. Sometimes you are just perfect the way you are. And it might be that you are doing fantastic, but the people that are around you are re-triggering you, or they're not great people themselves. So that it makes you feel like you're not as good, if that makes sense. And you don't have to work on yourself straight away, because it's a process. Let's be honest, right? I feel like I have to whisper it, so bloody private, but a lot of advice out there is completely worthless, right? Completely. I remember 7 years ago, I was absolutely devastated with who I was, my relationships, my career. I felt hopeless, and I had no more fight in me left to keep on going. And then I think I saw a video online, and it promised this course. I can't remember it exactly, but it was basically saying this is the only advice that you're ever going to need. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. You see that on YouTube channels, right? Like, this is the one video you need for the rest of your life. And then that's published, but then they continue to publish like another 50,000 videos every single year. And you're like, clickbaity, of course. So when I saw that video, it gave me that passion to think, I'm going to try one more time. So I threw myself into the deep end. I absorbed everything I could to I got my hands on in terms of business. I was hoovering doing chores. I had Pat Flynn podcast playing in my ears. I slept to Tim Ferriss audiobooks. I was attending as many webinars throughout the week as I could, cramming that into my very depressed life. And then about 5 years later, I sat on the end of my bed and I thought, what have I actually done to change my life? Yeah, my life has improved and I've amounted some amazing business tips, but I still felt lost and I didn't have the promise that other people sold me. Maybe I had money in the bank and bought some amazing things, but mentally, emotionally, I wasn't fulfilled, because these books and these courses don't really talk about that. They're very few and far between. So I didn't have the promise that this course sold to me. Myself was just so consumed with negative emotion, and I didn't know how to make the most of all the information I was absorbing, because the relationship with myself was negative. If I'm only reading content from a place of I am lacking, it's hard to adopt that mindset, because the drive of that negative emotion is so overwhelming that it feels it's so without reach to improve yourself that you just give up completely anyway. It's all about baby steps, right? And like I said, read a book with the purpose of, I love myself very much right now. I don't need to change. I'm just curious. And then you're more likely to adopt a new form of behavior. Because we can train our brains to think the current you is not good enough. You need to change. You can't trust yourself to change at all. So you need external help and giving your power to someone else to do so. And a lot of information includes the why you are lacking and what you need to do or have to be the better version of you. But a lot of it doesn't really give the how. And I see it all the time, especially on YouTube. A lot of content is very much 10 tips to sleep better at night, but it really misses the how process of how you should actually achieve something. So yeah, you're still left with a burning desire to achieve a goal, but no actual method of how to actually get there. And then that intensifies the feelings of, wow, I'm an idiot because I still can't figure this out. So in those moments when you feel like you don't have the power of self-control and inner wisdom, that is when you need to explore some therapy options. Explore your negative self-talk. Even if you don't want to do therapy, really explore that uncomfortable feeling. And that basically means not another bloody self-help book. Self-help online is not a substitute for therapy. It's just a supplement providing the content that you digest is actually reputable to begin with, and the attitude of kindness to the self is what you have. You're kind to yourself and you're curious to improve the mindset that I'm curious. I want to see how I can be better, as opposed to I have to change because I am lacking. And you will find when you're the most broken version of yourself, when you're deep in your trauma, that is when you absorb a lot more content. It's endless. You are absorbing for absorbing's sake because you're like, I need to feel good. I need to feel validated and positive. And you absorb endless content and not really taking it in. So the pressure of perfection is another thing. I'm a firm believer that you become what you surround yourself with. And I talk about this on my YouTube channel, that whoever we hang out with, they can unconsciously hold us back if they are not a passionate person too, if they don't do self-work. You almost revert to their behaviors. It's a little bit like if you've grown up in a traumatic home where everyone's very shouty and aggressive and everyone talks over each other, you might come away from a family meal, let's say in the home, and feel like you're reverting back to your old teenage ways because there is that unconscious need to fit the people that you are hanging out with. So the more you surround yourself with, let's say, the hustle bro culture, the cold showers at 5 a.m. clan, and you let social media algorithms give you that tons of, you suck unless you have this, and if you work a 9 to 5, you are pathetic, absolute awful things to see. It creates this constant pressure to be more, to be perfect, and perfection cannot be achieved. You're perfect as you are right now. Please remember that. You've seen the amount of edited images on Instagram, right? We know that's a thing. Filters exist. We are not flawless. And people that maybe do have, let's say, perfect bodies, inverted commas, perfect bodies and perfect skin, they're only going to show you the best photos, aren't they? They might have taken like 50,000 selfies, but you only see one. So surround yourself with, dare I say it, inverted commas, normality, with things that internally make you feel good without any pressure. It might mean your Instagram For You page is a lot less dopamine inducing because you're only looking at pictures of like small cute puppies, but it becomes a calmer place of just enjoying life instead of, oh my gosh, I don't own a hot tub, I need to publish an online course that make money. So take stock every now and then. Are you happy in the present moment with yourself? Or are you not happy, that you think that you need to achieve more? Are you trying to be happy for everyone else's approval? Because we can start to feel guilt when we enjoy our life when we're on this road of self-improvement. For example, you might think, I just want to sit down and watch TV for an hour, and then that message in the back of your head is like, whoa, bro, you're not making enough money. Go back upstairs and finish that course that you bought. So we feel guilty to not work on ourselves every moment of the day. It becomes an obsession. We can be driving to work, listening to podcasts of self-help, scrolling through self-help subreddits, right? On our lunch break, coming back home and then watching self-help YouTube videos. We're not letting ourselves feel. We feel guilty to just enjoy ourselves and have a day off. Now, I recently completed a Kabbalah course, and it is hands down my most favourite course I have ever completed. Probably the cheapest course I've ever bought as well, but it had tons of value and it just resonated. It was perfect. And I want to share the key takeaway from it. So it taught me about the endless test of the ego and the concept that to heal our egos, we have to simply let go. So instead of thinking, why is this bad thing happening to me? We have to think why this is happening for me. What miracle can I gain from this? Let's have the example, right? That you're driving to work and your car absolutely fails on the motorway. You have to pull over, you're late for work, your boss is annoyed because you were like the presenter for an important speech PowerPoint thing that day. AA, the recovery guys, take 5 hours to get to you. You're freezing your knees off and you're like, I hate this. And you sit down and you feel uncomfortable and you think, right, why is this happening for me? And then you're like, you know what? This is now my moment. I've realized that I don't want to work corporate anymore. I don't want people to disrespect me when accidents in life happen. I want to go my own way and do my own thing. So you start to realize that you are being given something that might be traumatic in the moment, whatever that means for you, but that's happening for you for growth. So in those moments when we don't feel good, we assume we are lacking, like I've said before. And if we believe we are lacking, our ego wins, and then we continue to plunge into that cycle of negative emotions, which reinforces our low self-esteem. And let me tell you, I said that someone wants to sell you one book and the next book and the next course and the supplementary course, yada, yada. Healing is a lifelong journey. The process of grieving when someone has passed, grieving a childhood that you never had, grieving the end of a relationship that didn't turn out how you wanted it to be, that can be a lifelong journey. Improving yourself is a continuous process because we build ourselves up. We're the best version that we've ever been. And then cracks appear, something happens, we get re-triggered, the walls will fall down and we have to build ourselves back up again, a little bit stronger, and then the next crack happens. Because we might believe that I know I did this 5 years ago. I thought I would be a master at emotional intelligence, right? And never end up dealing with an immature adult, a narcissist ever again, that I would know how to put boundaries up in every single moment. No one would walk all over me and I would never have mental health down days. And I was so wrong. And it's easy for me to think, hang on, I've done all this work. Am I flawed? Am I broken? I'm still feeling sad. And it turns out the reality is, you never get to a point where you have achieved success. You just continue to grow until you're like, yep, I'm happy here. I can healthily compromise with this moment. Okay, something caught me off guard. It means I have to work on my boundaries a bit more. But the devilish self-improvement industry tells us to focus on an end goal, that there's a guaranteed fix. We have constant reminders that time is running out, and if we don't achieve our goals quick enough, we are a failure. And then that work on ourselves becomes a chore because we feel unfulfilled. We don't feel good to do these online courses and read these books anymore. We end up probably not finishing that course or that book and abandoning our dreams and goals because it feels too out of reach and we don't feel that excitement that we once did 2 weeks in. Therefore, reinforcing that we are failures and that cycle repeats. And let me be really honest. It's so hard to improve, right? Improving yourself, whatever that means for you, it's not a quick fix that some gurus say. You can't watch one YouTube video and have mastered a topic. You can't read one book and have mastered a topic. It takes a while because if it was that easy, right, we wouldn't have crimes. Let's think about it. People wouldn't be committing things they shouldn't be doing. If it was that easy to fix something, we wouldn't have abusive parents in their 60s. They would learn, right? We wouldn't have narcissism and narcissistic people if they could improve themselves quickly. We wouldn't have ugly divorces where people are obsessed with money and punishing the other spouse. It's a constant battle, and facing vulnerabilities is so painful, especially in the beginning of self-help. It can feel like you are dying, that you will never stop crying, that you are going to drown yourself in a room of tears because you've never let yourself feel uncomfortable before, and it's shocking. And it will unleash a huge amount of shame and endless nights. Now, shame, like we said before, it's an evolutionary process. It helps us to think, am I on track here? So let's have the example. Let's say we're in a tribe thousands of years ago, obviously. You might be in a tribe now, pretty cool. I'm joking. But many years ago, caveman times, it would have been you would do something that wouldn't agree with the rest of the tribe. maybe you put a foot out of line, you said something, you upset someone, I don't know, maybe you stole the biggest scrap of meat when really someone else should have eaten it because they were unwell, whatever, that you end up being casted out of that tribe and you have to sit with that uncomfortable feeling. And that's shame. And that's the shame is telling us, our body and our mind is telling us, you did something which if it was really bad or we do it again, that's going to permanently force us out of the tribe. And it makes us think, okay, so we have a moral code, we have our internal values. You went against that in this moment and now you're feeling shame for it. So that's what happens sometimes when people become triggered. Someone can say something and we don't consider ourselves to be a prickly, aggressive person, but someone might say something. It's triggered something in the past. In the present moment, we feel this need to get our own back and to hurt someone, to emotionally manipulate them. It happens to everyone, let's be honest. And then afterwards, you're like, oh, why did I do that? I feel so much shame. And that's because you know that was morally wrong of you to do. But it's a learning process. Your body saying, hang on, I'm showing you this uncomfortable feeling so you can learn from it. Remember, why is this happening for me? Why am I feeling shame right now? What can I learn from this? Because a lot of advice out there, believe me, a lot of it, I've thrown a lot of money at this whole industry. It's ridiculous. They don't usually acknowledge how cruel self-improvement can actually be. It can re-trigger you. It can be re-traumatizing. It brings up memories from the past that you thought you'd suppressed. And it's not just oh, I suck at social skills. Let me take this quick 6-week course to improve my charisma and eye contact. It's going to bring a lot of deep feelings. If the guru or the writer is aware of psychology, that's great. But like I said, anyone can claim that they're an expert nowadays, that they might not help you understand how to get over these uncomfortable feelings and what to do when you are rejected by other people or from your own moral code. So a lot of self-improvement can bring around deep feelings of, why have I sucked at these skills for so long? Let's say you took a course about people pleasing, okay? Very basic people pleasing course to stop being the yes man. But if it doesn't dive into deep psychology and where that feeling came from, what can happen is you're like, okay, I've sucked at these skills. Now I've realized I was never modeled these skills as a child. Did my parents not find them important? Oh my God, my parents have emotionally neglected me. Oh my God, there's so much more I'm lacking. And it's a springboard, makes you realize, holy crap, things aren't as great as I thought they would be. And that's what a lot of self-improvement does not talk about. Sometimes there's a great podcast actually called If Books, I think it's called If Books Could Kill. And it basically talks about books that are in the self-help industry that are awful. And a lot of books that you read could just be condensed down to a bloody blog post, right? I have an app on my phone. Let me pull it up right now. I think it's called, let me find it. I'm pretty sure it's called Headway. So yeah, Headway basically condenses all these big books and turns them into small pieces of actionable content. So, for example, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an FUCK. This app has condensed it down. Oh, I'm playing it, sorry. Played it down to a 12-minute audio. And then on a couple of books, you can download just the key points or PDFs and stuff. And I kind of feel, well, if your book, which was like 7,000 pages long, could be condensed down to 12-minute key points, there's a lot of fluff in there, right? Just send me to the meat and potatoes. I just want the advice. I don't want to know your background, buddy. I want to know how to improve. So we don't talk about it. The spiderweb effect of exposure therapy and unlocking one trait can actually bring around a lot more. Now, I remember this awful shame cycle that I had for months, thinking back to times when I was not my best self in social situations after taking a charisma course, and I started to analyze and cringe at my own behavior, and then I avoided people out of that shame feeling. And the course did not prepare me for that. There was no, by the way, caution, if you have these negative feelings, please, I advise to go to therapy, journal about it, speak to a friend that you trust. It was kind of like a wham bam, thank you ma'am, I have your money, now please leave. Right. Not loving the starting self, very important. The moment we watch a video or we buy a book or we click on a sign me up for this course, we are saying to ourselves, right now, I don't believe I don't already have what it takes to improve myself in situation. Therefore, I'm going to take my trust, put it in another person because I have no idea, I have no concept of inner power, and I can only learn this from an external source, which might sound great. Of course, we have to adopt certain expertise to grow, but we end up giving someone else all of our power. It reinforces, I am not good enough right now. I am depending on someone else. So read or watch whatever it is you're doing and you think to yourself, I'm perfect with my flaws. I'm just a little bit curious to see another perspective. And a one-size situation does not fit all. It's obvious. The perfect marketer knows that for every product they sell, there needs to be an ideal buyer. So when they plan out who this person is, they have a rough idea of someone's age, gender, their location, their interests, what magazines they read, what Instagram accounts they follow, relationship status, income, passions, hobbies, and their mission statements, all written down. They've done a ton of average to find their average perfect buyer. So you can buy a course or you can read a book because it has, let's say, it's a YouTube video that has a million likes, million subscriber channel, and you're like, yeah, this is going to be amazing advice. Or you've seen a book on Amazon, which is like the top 10 books this week, or a New York Times bestseller. So you have this great apprehension of this is going to be good. It's going to be really, really good. But it turns out that you've just given into marketing, which it happens. I get it. Don't feel bad about it. But then you can read that book or watch that video, have that course, and feel a bit off, because then you think, hang on a second, I've got to do so much more work than the average person. But you might not be aware of that. You might be at the very start of your healing journey, that until you've healed people-pleasing tendencies, perfectionism, and gained boundaries, you won't get further in your business course. You will still get walked over by clients and struggle to ask for money, etc. There's a lot more that needs to be uncovered. But if you weren't aware of your self-healing, you would just think that you suck at business, not realizing there's an internal process prior to that. So the average book to you might feel a bit off. And then because your situation is unique and different, you probably switch off or feel you have to complete a course because you've invested time and money into it. So you have to really, take a look at what we are absorbing and think, is this advice credible? But also find it okay to turn around and say, this book is a load of cold swatter, right? I don't want to read it. It's awful. I've got about 3, 4, 5 chapters in and it just doesn't resonate with me. And put it down and have that mindset of, okay, that was a lesson. That did not resonate with me, rather than forcing yourself to complete that book. It's okay. Not everything is going to resonate with you. Not all the content out there is amazing. For whatever reason, you don't relate to it, or it's just not credible, or, which kind of happens quite a lot, content's just stolen from someone else. A lot of content is just regurgitated, and no one is citing